Yeah.
The blue, right?
Yep. Beautiful. We're good.
We're good? All right.
Rock.
What's going on, everybody? This is Jose Ledesma of the Ignorant Shit Only Podcast, aka ISO Show. I am your co-host, Jose Ledesma. I am with my other co-host, Kuya Flip, baby.
What up, baby?
And we are with the one and only content creator, doomsday prepper, fitness superstar,
yeah,
MuthaPrepper.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Where's the like?
Oh yeah, the keyboard.
Hey, we need one of those.
That would be hella funny.
We need one of those.
But all right, yeah, let's get this started. Episode 20.
Episode 20. Yep. Really quick, let's give a little bit of background. We did shoot this live Saturday.
Sunday. Oh no, Saturday. Yeah,
Saturday.
Yes.
We had to re-record here now. I think going forward, we might just be doing the recording and then uploading them right after the episode. There was an issue where we didn't get any of the audio, and so we had to.
We recorded the whole motherfucking episode.
Yes.
Whole episode.
And you're watching.
Yeah, and you're watching. Yeah, and so thank you again to MuthaPrepper. You know what I'm saying?
For rescheduling.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
fine.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you for coming out.
It's fun.
Again. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So let's get this started, shall we? For the second time.
Yeah.
For the second time.
He's frozen.
Right. Make it seem like the camera wasn't working. Anyway. Okay. What event or time in your life started your prepper journey?
This was probably back in 2017. At that time, we were getting crazy rain. The term was atmospheric river, and that was the first time I'd actually heard about it. And I feel like every year they just now use it as to describe any crazy storm. But it was raining really, really hard, a lot over the course of days. And are you laughing?
Because I had a chair jumped.
The way his chair popped on the ground was so aggressive.
My bad.
I'm trying to tell my
That chair was
life-changing
stressed.
story.
That chair was stressed.
Anyways, it was raining a lot, and the ground, I feel like, can only take so much water at one time. So if you remember, like, the kind of outer parts of our general area was starting to flood. Levees were stressed. Some of them had broke.
Yeah.
And so some of the other lower areas had already flooded, like roads. You couldn't even travel on roads. And by the way, if you're ever driving and you have some type of flooding, please do not drive through it. Don't think that, it's probably just a puddle and drive through it. You really only need like a few inches of standing water for you to lose traction on your tires. So people were stranded. So people were stranded, and people couldn't. They had to get rescued because they were now on top of their cars. The water was rising. Thankfully, in my neighborhood, though, it didn't flood, but the surrounding areas were. And I think at that point, I had to like really ask myself, like, what am I going to do if we suddenly have to evacuate because it's flooding? And we had no plan. I didn't have a child yet. It was just my husband and I, and we had no plan, nowhere to go. No idea of like what supplies we would take with us. It was just like, oh, shit, what do we do? If we have to leave, what are we going to do? And then on top of it, there's always the folks that feel like even if they got an evacuation notice, they're like, I have time. And then I don't think people really account for how quickly things can change, whether it's flooding, a fire, tornado. We see it all the time in the news, right? People are left behind.
Especially in California, like fires are a big thing. The other thing too is like, I don't necessarily think this is getting political, but like a lot of home insurances don't offer fire like anymore now.
Well, in California they stopped.
California, that's what I'm saying, right? Yeah, at all. So it's like, and we're heavy on fire, especially during the summer. So it's, and then having to deal with that emotion as well as like getting your family out of there. Like, I feel you.
So that we saw that happen just in Southern California in these fires, right? In Palisades Fire and other thing. So like SoCal and other places. People who are now dealing with the devastation of losing their home have to come and find out that insurance companies aren't paying out. There's no assistance for various reasons that they're stating. And it's like you pay into this insurance in hopes that when something like this happens, you have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And
nothing.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that all over the state, right? Because it's an at-risk state. And it's like, if you can get fire insurance, it's wildly expensive. And there's a lot of restriction in terms. So it's like, good luck. If you're buying or selling a home, it's hard to get fire insurance right now.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Can you, without giving up too much detail, can you kind of share the current plan you have in place for you and your family if something was to happen near your home or in your neighborhood?
So one, I want to say, if you have the opportunity to band together with like family and friends and community and build out a plan, I keep hitting this damn thing.
Sorry.
No, it's my fault. If you have the opportunity to band together with more people who have the same interest in building out an emergency evacuation plan or just having a structure of what to do, you're gonna increase your survival rate and your survival capability. So for me, you know, we talk with some family that live close to us, like location wise, and said, you know, if there's ever a disaster of this kind, here's where this is our more immediate rally point, like rally point A. And the reason, because we know it's not in our immediate neighborhood, it's just far enough away where it's accessible by car, by bike, by walking if we had to, but we have a place to go that is familiar and in a safety region. Now, if it's something that's impacting our entire neighborhood or city, then there is a rally point B that we've established as a family that's kind of made this plan together. And in the inverse of that, right? So the family members that are involved that are kind of a ways away.
Hit your thing again. Oh, you're good.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Our family members that are a ways away, the same plan is if they're impacted, they know they can come to us as our location being their safe haven.
Yeah.
So I think it's always good to have like a plan A and a plan B. If you have an area that is close to you, that is still kind of a good point of refuge for you, if like your house was, you know, compromised, it's not, I wouldn't say go to your neighbor's house, because what if it's a fire that's like right there, and then now you're both in some hot water. But if you can have a plan A and a plan B, that's just going to make that even better for you to be able to pivot in the moment if something goes south.
Yeah. Okay, so something that I would like for you to touch on is, let's just go back to this, right? In 2001, the Twin Towers were hit, right? And then there was a huge thing where they were like, a lot of people were super scared. A lot of people were pulling their kids from school. I know that my mom pulled me from school. I was in the first grade when this happened, right? So...
Oh, you youngin'. You're a baby.
The question that I have for you is, God forbid, but if a situation happens where something environmentally, or, you know, we'll just stick with that, happens and your kid is in school, do you have a plan in place for that? And how do you go about planning for that? Absolutely.
I think this is something every parent should try to determine for themselves. There's a level of comfort that you have to have. For me, if it's something where I'm starting to see the situation, I keep hitting this thing. If the situation's unraveling, right, or if things just don't feel right, being able to kind of make that like parental decision to say, no, my kid's not going to go to school today, or you know what, whatever is happening outside the home, whether it's like crazy weather and it's just really unsafe, or if it's civil unrest. We see that happening in a lot of areas too, where things just get really hot and you're like, something feels like it's on the cusp of breaking loose.
Yeah.
Being able to make that call and say, this just doesn't feel right, and trusting your gut to know, like, maybe keep your family close by, your kids at home, your kids at home. For me, full disclosure, we determined where my kid was going to go to school. One of the factors was, how quick can I get on campus?
Yeah.
And whose backyard am I driving through?
Yeah.
I've mapped that out, so I know whose backyard's probably going to get my truck rolled through in order for me to get on campus and get my kid.
Yeah. Other thing, okay, so when other people are planning for that, like the neighborhood I'm in, I know that I have a pool, right? And what happens if another neighbor has a pool? Then, like, you know what I mean? Obviously, there's that issue too.
Yeah,
and
that's where Google Earth comes in really
exactly,
handy.
yeah, because you can see people's backyards.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you use that too when planning?
I did. I also have a drone.
Oh shit. Okay.
So, I mean, I
wonder what they're doing.
I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's also very easy because fortunately where I live, there's a number of different ways to get to that campus and to be able to get to that school. And so that's another key point I think I want to make sure I touch on is, if you live in an area like you and I probably do that is more urban or suburban in nature, it is so important that you find alternate routes to where you would need to go, whether that's your way to and from work, school, your kids' school, their childcare location, being able to have an idea, okay, if this road is impacted or busy, I know a different route, or I know I know back roads or dirt roads and to where I want to go. Because a lot of people, I'll tell you, if an emergency ever happens, everybody's going to have the same great idea, to go on the freeway or the highway or the major ways to get in and out.
Yeah.
And you need to know what are some of your alternative methods of getting the hell out of there or getting to safety.
Yeah. I know, for instance, and I'm sorry, I know that you probably have other questions, but this is something that I wanted to touch on too. So I seen there was a few years ago there was this huge rainstorm, and right outside of Sacramento there was like this the 99 that goes towards like Galt and stuff like that. There's like a 2-lane stretch where that thing was entirely flooded.
That was probably the same storm that started my preparedness journey.
Okay, so yeah, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like people, like I had a buddy who I work with, he comes in from Galt and he couldn't.
That whole area was cut off.
Yeah. So if that's the case, right? If yours is situation is similar to that, what are your suggestions to people who can't get on even that 2-way freeway?
It's tough, right? You also have to think about what are ways to get away. So not necessarily in that direction, but ways to get away. So thankfully in that area it wasn't an island. You may not be able to come in this direction, but you still have the roadway to go the opposite direction if it's purely for safety. Yeah. But even at that, if you know you're in an area that's going to be compromised like that for water or fire, understanding, like for example with flooding, what are some higher regions to where you live, right? Where are some areas that are a little bit higher that you wouldn't necessarily have as much risk for flooding? And if it's like a fire, where are some places that you know you can evacuate that doesn't have as much brush or trees or things that would naturally just light on fire if the winds change. Yeah. So being able to kind of look at your surroundings where you normally are and say, this is where my risks are. If I know that area, because I think that area you and I were talking about, it kind of dips down a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so
almost like into a levee.
Yeah, which is such a weird design. I didn't design it. Yeah. But it dips down and that entire thing is flooded like a tunnel.
Yeah.
And that is something, if you know you travel on that and you depend on that roadway to get to and from, it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Like this isn't a great design if there was suddenly flooding.
Yeah.
But to your point, it may have been inconvenient for those folks at that moment, but it wasn't their only way in and out. And it's important to know what those are.
Gotcha.
So as a prepper, what made you want to start sharing this information like how we're doing now, but as a content creator? Because you obviously create content for your YouTube.
I try.
And your Instagram as well.
Thank you. I realized when I was trying to take preparedness seriously, there was no prepper that looked like me, lived in the type of area I lived. Everything I found online as far as resources was very much the like single male lone wolf prepper that had like one dog, 20 years worth of food that was like freeze dried and like tons of ammo in a bunker in the mountain. I was like, that's not the average person though.
Yeah,
so
that's
like
not practical.
That's not practical. So for me, I wanted to try to share my journey of how the hell this all started for me, because that storm really got me thinking, if I don't have a plan of where to go, how am I going to survive? Would I even know like what I would need to do to evacuate quickly? That shook me. I was shooketh. And so I couldn't, shooketh. Yeah. So I couldn't figure out, I knew that I needed to make a change, and I knew that it would probably be best for me to do this over time. So I started just to document what made sense for me, because I'm not the type of person that can probably have a bunker in the side of a mountain, or even, I live in somewhere suburban. So I didn't even have the opportunity to have acres and acres to grow my own food, to have my own cattle or things like that. Like that was just felt so out of my reach. So I wanted to start with small things that I could do within my own home and my own capabilities to be more self-sufficient, to be more practical. And it kind of grew from there. And I found that there were a lot of people who were like me that were wondering the same thing. They're like, I want to be more prepared, but every resource I'm finding it doesn't apply to my life. Yeah. You know, like I have kids. I live in a suburban area. I live like in a city setting where I have to worry about other elements that aren't what your normal preparedness person would encounter.
Yeah, which is like a lot of times them being off-grid.
Yeah, off-grid, which is great. That's the goal, right? But it's like, that's not an everyday, like I can't just, I'm off-grid now. Like it's a wish that we can try to get closer to.
So which out of the three outlets, because like I mentioned, you have YouTube, you have Instagram, but you also have your blog. So out of those three outlets, which one have you felt like you've reached the most people or been the most helpful to people that are viewing you and being fans of you?
I would probably say Instagram is probably where I feel like I've made the most contribution and hopefully the most impact. And it's a little challenging though sometimes because short form has its own limitations. So I've started to transfer a lot of like the more in-depth conversations I want to have to YouTube. So I'm starting to build out my library of like content and offerings on YouTube. By the way, it's a different beast. So trying to get used to how to do that is a little tricky. So I'm learning. Yeah, no, I'm just starting.
No, we're learning too.
Yeah. But probably Instagram is where you're going to find most of my content, and it varies from a lot of different genres. And a lot of what I try to post as far as content or make content for, it is really by questions that I get from people. Everything from having a micro homestead and garden and chickens in my side yard to building bug out bags and car kits. There's a lot of different entry points to preparedness. And so a lot of what I share and try to learn myself, I get from a lot of people that are asking questions, or if myself, I'm learning from other creators.
Yeah. Awesome. As much as you can recollect off the top of your head, can you share the items you currently already own in your prepper
There's so many
inventory? I know it's a loaded question, but just so fans can get an idea of being like, maybe I should start buying this kind of stuff, or maybe invest in these things.
Yeah, I think a lot of the practical things that I have found help me in preparedness are things I actually already own. So like building a bug out bag is a very popular choice for a lot of people who want to just start their readiness and start somewhere. That's how my journey started. I built a bug out bag in response to the flooding. I was like, well, at least if I have to evacuate, I know I've got supplies for like 72 hours in this bag. Yeah. So building that out was kind of like my first step.
I was sorry to cut you off. Is that kind of like the range you're going for with the bug out bag is 72 hours?
That's the goal. Yeah. That's the goal, is to be self-sufficient or have the tools to be able to survive for 72 hours. Now, some people realistically, when they're building this pack, because they have limitations of what they can carry and what they have at the time, maybe it's 24 hours. Maybe it's more than 72 hours. It really varies, but you want to try to always look at your bug out bag and make refinements as you go on. But a lot of what I've packed already are things that I already own. Like, for example, repurposing athletic shoes that you already own. Maybe you were going to donate them. They're just not your style anymore, but they still fit. They still work great. Having an extra pair of shoes that are comfortable that you can use in your bug out bag is going to be super helpful if you suddenly have to evacuate in the middle of the night and you have no shoes, or you, for whatever reason, had to leave the house in a real hurry and could not grab anything. So there's ways to repurpose what you have like that, like just putting that in your bug out bag. But I probably think one of the more popular ones that we come across are the tools that you need for like water filtration. Have you guys seen the like life straws? Yeah. Those are super compact, very popular because it gives you a method to be able to use a water resource, hopefully on the cleaner side. Yeah. And have a better chance of being able to consume that water in an emergency situation. Yeah. That doesn't mean like, obviously, you be smart. Not every standing water is like drinkable water. But if you come across like a stream or a body of water that you may be able to drink, having something like a portable water filtration device it's the make or break between like life and death for some people. Yeah, because you have to make sure you have water.
Yeah, you need it to survive.
You need it to survive. Yeah. And also, for example, another one I'll mention is having first aid options in your bug out bag. I think a lot of people go for the big ticket items like food, water, defense, tools. All of that's great, but also making sure you have medical supplies and over-the-counter medication. Yeah. Even simple stuff like Advil or Tylenol, and I know a lot of people don't like those or they love them. It's a mixed bag, but at least having some options for like a fever reducer or pain reducer in the field can really increase your ability to survive for X amount of hours. Because if you're in pain or if you have a fever, your chances of survival are going to be completely different. So having even basic over-the-counter medication and a first aid kit is really going to be helpful for you if you have to evacuate.
And it seems like when you're building your bug out bag, it really has to just be tailored for what it is your environment is and everything that you have to survive as far as like just whatever's you're going up against.
Yeah, and I do have a link that has, and so I'll send it to y'all also if you want to share this out, but it's kind of just a quick guide of like what I would recommend to start your bug out bag supply list. And I guarantee you have like a good amount of that stuff that you already have that stuff that you can repurpose and put in a bag. But you're right. It should be, my viewpoint is if you're going to build a bug out bag for survival, each adult should have one. So it's not just like a family bug out bag, because what happens if you guys are separated or if you leave it, right? Or you want some redundancy built into that. But it has to be tailored to whoever it's for. And you want to make sure you build the good habit of going through what the hell is in that bag every change of season. So cold season, hot season, you want to just go through it and make sure you have the right things. Because
oh, damn. I didn't think about that too, based on the season.
Well, you're going to need different things in the winter versus the summer.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and you don't want to keep carrying stuff that is just added weight that you know you're not going to use in that season.
Yeah.
So any time there's a change in season, that's always a good opportunity to look at what you've prepped and just say, like, what do I need to swap out? Mm-hmm. What do I need to replace? Because food and medication can sometimes expire. Plus, that gives you the opportunity to really say, oh, shoot, I didn't realize I was missing this, or I need to add this, or I have too much of this in my pack and now it's too heavy. So preparedness is never going to be a one and done. It's designed to be a journey that you are looking and reevaluating all the time.
Consistently. Mm-hmm. So as far as like with the water filtration thing, Joe, I feel like if you get that, bro, you just can't go to septic tanks right away.
No, please don't.
You can't make that like your first time. I'm going to Megan Thee Stallion septic tank.
We're going to put this to the test.
I'm going to test this out right now.
I don't think you should go to Galveston, Texas's beach. I don't think you should go there as your first stop.
That was oddly specific.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Because
someone's been fantasizing.
No. Because you know that, what's his name? Charles Barkley? He always talks shit about Texas.
Oh, about
especially San Antonio and Galveston.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring up their beach, which is not really a beach, I would say. Ever. But anyway, so for someone who is like, well, how can I say this? Someone who wants to start their own, inventory, but doesn't necessarily have like great financial means to like get like certain items. Like, where would you say some good stores to go to?
Yeah,
to get those beginner items.
There's actually a lot of opportunity to find what you need in terms of preparedness and save a buck. One, free, repurpose what you have. And I think we talked about it a little bit with the shoes. So finding things that you would need to set aside for emergency purposes. And I guarantee you, we all have something that can be used for like an emergency purpose and be put aside. There are discount stores. You would be surprised. I actually did a challenge. I think it was like $50 or $20, and I went through the Dollar Tree, and I said, what can I purchase that I know I would be able to put in my bug out bag or build out a car kit in this store? And there was actually so much available. Everything from like gloves to masks to being able to have extra rope to keep for emergencies in your car if you needed to be able to use it. Ponchos. There are so many things that are available. I think I've just named off like a serial killer, like starter pack. My bad.
Ammonia.
Sorry. Gloves and a mask. But there's
knives.
Actually, there are box cutters.
I bet there are.
Or the stuff you gave us from last time.
Oh, no.
From emergency.
I have it. I'll get it in a second.
The Bipper special. This episode's sponsored by MuthaPrepper.
Shit. No. Don't do that. Sorry for the crime increase that might come of that.
Yeah.
But the Dollar Tree and discount stores like that are actually really great resources if you just know kind of what you're looking for. And then third, the option that I think a lot of people just pass up is places like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, being able to repurpose secondhand items. People sell stuff all the time on like Nextdoor or Facebook Marketplace, and it's like tents, sleeping bags, winter boots. You can get some really amazing stuff when it comes to preparedness secondhand for like a fourth of the price. So a lot of times, I'll give you an example. A lot of times people will try to buy one of those big old chest freezers, right, that you keep in the garage, and you put a bunch of like frozen meat and just frozen food to build a food storage that way. Yeah. Those freezers are really expensive. But every day I feel like I see more and more on Facebook Marketplace of those freezers for very inexpensive. Yeah. So you can save money.
That's where I got mine.
Really, yeah. So they're applying everything. So you can save a lot of money by just trying to be financially savvy in how you're approaching preparedness.
Yeah. So, like you kind of touched on earlier about like the stereotypes for preppers, being the guy up in the mountains, having acres of land and all that. Yeah. So with those
guy named Dale.
So with
Dave, Dale. Prepared with Dave.
So with those stereotypes and stigmas against preppers, How do you combat that and find new ways to show people that it's just for anyone, not just for Prepper Dave up in the mountains?
Prepper Dave. Yeah. If there's a guy watching who's really like, his name's Dave and has a channel, it's like Prepared with Dave. I'm so sorry. We just picked a name. But for me, I feel like I actually don't have to do a lot of that work. Whenever this type of topic comes up, I just like to be able to use what we know is being reported in the news, because those are events that are real, they're unfolding, and they are impacting people's lives. Whether it's the fires that we saw happen in Southern California or tornadoes that happened in the South and Midwest, there are a lot of opportunities where you can show, hey, if we had the opportunity to be a little bit more prepared, could the outcome have been a little bit different? Could people have made it out faster because they had a better or stronger evacuation plan, had food to survive, if they had to take shelter for X amount of days, right? The outcome could have been different. So for me, I just don't feel like I have to do a lot of that work, because we're already talking about these events when they happen in the news, and people are openly talking about it. But I think the missing piece that we can continue to interject is, how could this have been different with a more prepared plan? Yeah.
Okay, so that's like, for instance, and I think you've kind of only touched on what is happening stateside, but what happens when you are, are you also including like contemporary global issues? Like when you're talking about these things too, like as far as like I don't want to get too much into it, but let's just say war, for instance. If war breaks out stateside and we are in a state of emergency, martial law is in effect, how does your preparedness journey prepare you for that? Are you prepared for that as well?
I think a lot of what people felt, like for example, when we had a lot of these discussions happening and a lot of global events that were impacting trade and shipping, and I think that was relative during like the COVID times, and when we were at the Ukraine war was another one. There's a lot of global events that we're seeing impacting where we sit today. So one example is, we saw this happen where there was like shutdown with shipping and with trade. So a lot of the goods that we rely on were now subject or at risk, right? And everything from like wheat to shortages with different specific like food supply. So knowing that what we consume every day from like a food standpoint could possibly be at risk because of the global trade and the global economy that we all depend on. Knowing what you need on a week-to-week and month-to-month basis for your family is good knowledge, because then you can start to build out a food storage for things that you know you need and where you would need to source it. But it also makes you wonder, okay, if I had to rely on what I need to get at the grocery store, what can I do to be more self-sufficient? So being able to shift that a little bit and say like, what can I grow at home? What can I do better to make myself, rather than having to rely on somebody to ship it to me? And for example, like we're seeing the egg shortage for a lot of places.
They're hella expensive.
Right. And it's like the new rich is like having a dozen eggs. Do you have the opportunity to have chickens on your property? So I feel very fortunate to like do this experiment in my own suburban area and have 4 chickens, and it's made such a difference. I don't think I've had to buy eggs for a while.
Yeah, because what is it, like 2 chickens is 1 egg a day, right?
Depending on the breed, when it is sunny, you can get, because they depend on the sunlight to produce eggs. So depending on the breed, most of the time you're getting 1 egg a day.
Okay, that's pretty solid. The other thing too is, I know that California has, and forgive me if I'm misspeaking, but doesn't California have like this thing where you have to register your chickens?
No.
Like through city ordinance, if you're
you have to abide by your city ordinance to have chickens, but
but you don't have to report them.
I thought you had to register them, similar to like ARs.
I don't think chickens and ARs classify in the same category.
Like, we gotta put a serial number on your
Start branding your chickens.
That's disgusting.
Oh, it smells a little fried this time.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, you've got a KFC in your backyard.
I will say though that if you are gonna be getting chickens or any livestock, just follow your city ordinance, because some of those
there is gonna be certain things you have to follow, like how many can you have per maybe acreage or whatever.
Exactly, but I feel like a lot of people will think like, well, I can't get chickens and I can't do anything at all, because maybe they have HOA or they just don't have the space for it. But there are other ways to still have like livestock.
That HOA shit is crazy.
It is. But you could even get quail, right?
You can have quail?
You can have quail. So check this out. If you can't have chickens, you may be able to get quail. They're very quiet.
Yeah.
Their eggs are itty bitty, so I think you have to like have 3 eggs or the equivalent of 1 chicken egg. But they're very nutritious. Quail can start producing eggs in weeks. And so, and they're quiet, and they don't have to roam like my chickens do. My chickens are little divas. My mother cluckers, they have to like roam.
I love that you call them.
My mother cluckers, they have to roam. Otherwise, they get like antsy and squawky. But quail,
and they're a herd animal too, right? Aren't they? Don't they do better in groups?
They do. They're social animals. They do better in groups. That's why I have 4.
Yeah.
But they can be a nuisance. But quail don't have to do that. They can stay in a small location and...
That'd be cool. Mm-hmm. Okay, nice.
I'm going to come over and I'm going to just start putting quail in your yard and just...
I'm down.
I'm finding eggs.
Here's the thing. Okay, so really quick. So I know that MuthaPrepper had said that, follow your city ordinance, but a message from ignorant shit only, just go get the fucking chickens, bro.
Yeah, fuck that.
Go get like 6 or
We're
7 of them.
We're going to see an increase in bibbing
anybody.
and chickens,
and
I'm going to say, I'm sorry.
Ignorant
now.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. I got chickens
This is
and I've been
sponsored
stealing
by
purses.
MuthaPrepper too, by the way.
Yeah, sponsored by MuthaPrepper and ignorant shit only.
Everybody's getting a chicken.
Yeah, everybody get a chicken. I'm like Oprah of chickens.
You get the cluck. You get the cluck.
Yeah.
Everybody gets the cluck. How often would you say you update your escape plan, and then along that, the items that are a part of your escape plan?
I would say I'm evaluating what that looks like every season change also. So I know...
So like every 3 months, you would say?
Every 3 to 6 months, yeah.
Okay.
When there's a major season change, because you also have to evaluate, like, for our area, things are always under construction, right? So if I have a plan of where to what route to use to evacuate, and then come to find out, that area is actually closed for the next month or so because of evacuation. These are things I need to make sure I'm aware of to update our plan and to share with the people involved in our group, in our evacuation plan.
Yeah.
So it's always keen to know what's happening in your area for things like that. But every season change, when you're updating your preps, your bug out bag, your emergency kit, your car kit, things like that, it's also a good time to reevaluate. Okay, if we had to suddenly get the hell out of here, does that plan still make sense?
Yeah.
Because also, if you have kids, by the way, make your kids a part of this plan. And I know it's harder when they're like real young, but as they start to get older, like around the 6, 7, and beyond age, they can retain information, and they feel involved when you make them a part of the plan, and you have them like help you with a lot of these things, right? And that could be anything from carrying their own bag. Maybe it doesn't have all the supplies because of the weight, and you might have to distribute that in the bags that you carry as parents. But making them a part of the plan is really great. But when they start to get older, they can be a part of this and know what their role is in this evacuation plan or just emergency plan.
Yeah.
Simple stuff too, like what is your name, what is your address, what are your parents' name? Like you'd be surprised how many kids can't recall their own address or their mom and dad's phone number because it's in our phones, right? Or they're on their watch. A lot of kids, when we were young, right, our parents made us remember that stuff all the time.
I had a code whenever I got picked up by like my mom's friends or whatever like that. Like if she couldn't make it to pick me up when I was a kid, I had a code.
Yeah.
That like only
that
my mom
so
and I
important.
know. Yeah, for sure. Like those are things that we're being taught that I think aren't being taught enough.
They're not.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing a good comeback of that advice of like, especially with kids and technology, they're glued to their phones. A lot of people like, I'll be transparent too. There's phone numbers I can't recall. I have to go into my phone and actually figure out what it is.
Yeah.
But having a family code and a password is huge.
Yeah. Because
there's things like spoofing. You guys have heard of that, right? Where it's like you can mask a call to look like it's coming from a phone number and it's fake.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you can actually copy somebody's voice.
Yes. Yeah, through AI.
It's crazy, and it's scary too. So having a family code that you can use when they're old enough to know why you're using it is huge.
What scares me, and honestly, because my daughter's 4, when I look at her and I say, "What's Daddy's name?" if she just says daddy. And it's like, that's adorable. But in a situation, God forbid, if we're out in a public setting and we get separated for some reason, well, hi, sweetie, what's your daddy's name? It's just daddy. Like, she's not going to be able to.
And imagine her, like, under duress, too.
Exactly. She's crying. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I'm saying. And it's scary to think about that. And it's cute in the moment when they say that. But it's like, you got to think about all those scenarios. And I think that that's why now at this point I'm trying to teach her like my actual name. Yeah. You know what I mean? And she's kind of getting it now a little bit. She knows her name. But it's definitely like it's eye opening.
Yeah, you know and it's hard as parents. You never want to think about that. Yeah. But you're constantly reminded by the crazy shit that happens in the world, and you're like, it's sobering, and you have to remember that this is the world we live in, and we have to prepared parents raise prepared kids. Yeah. And so it's important that we change our mindset and we start to make them a part of that world that we are trying to be better for. Yeah.
So how big, to touch back on your garden again, how big would you say your garden has grown since you started?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And what type of foods are you growing in your garden?
It's grown. Every year I try to add more. Mm. So whether that's a new garden bed or a new planter, or last year I built an herb and strawberry wall, so it's like vertical growing.
I think I've seen that. It's in one of your beds, though, right?
No, it's actually got wheels, so you can wheel it around, and it's a repurposed pallet that I got from Home Depot, and I didn't even ask. I felt really bad. I took my truck in the back, and I was like, "Y'all don't need this, right? Yeah. We're good." And then I'm pretty sure that was not good. So I put the pallet in the truck.
Sorry, Home Depot.
Sorry, yeah. I put the pallet in the truck, and then I made a craft out of it. So it's like a vertical pallet with wheels that has like little planters on it, so you can make a strawberry wall. Anyways, but every year I try to grow this garden. And so right now I have 8 raised beds that are pretty big. I have a trellis so I can vertically grow on that too. And a ton of like different planters. And you can grow in anything. You could take any container, put some soil in it, and tend to it, and you can grow something. Yeah. I try to, and if you're just starting gardening, please take this tip. Grow what you know you're going to eat. I can't tell you how many times I've grown shit just because I was going to, I had ideas for how I would use it. Yeah. Nobody in my house ate it. Swiss chard, no one ate it. You know who ate it? My chickens. I grew it. It was beautiful. Looked really cool. Yeah. I didn't eat it. I don't like it. Yeah. So don't waste your time on things you're not going to actually consume. But for our region, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, a lot of different herbs. There's so many: squash, zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, all of the staples you would probably see in a normal garden. We're very fortunate in our area that we have a very long grow season, so I like to do as many peppers as possible because you can make all kinds of like dried spices and salsas and all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. But I do have a calamansi tree. So for I got really excited when I found it. So for my other Filipinos out there, you can grow calamansi in our region, which I was really excited about. So I have a calamansi tree.
Oh my God.
It's a dwarf one, so it's tiny, but I still get calamansi.
For us, that's like for you.
Do not say the fucking item that I think you're going to say.
For Filipinos, calamansi is like the equivalent for like mofongo.
Stop saying fucking mofongo.
What is that?
It's a dish.
It's like
his fucking number one thing to say. It's so annoying.
Fried plantains. That's all it is. Like certain things. Yeah. We fry our plantains too, but we call it toron, which is different.
Yeah, I mean...
Slightly, yeah.
Do you wrap it in rice? Okay, anyway, next question. How important...
We do wrap it, though. That's crazy you said mention that.
I know. Anyway, how important would you say the family aspect of physical fitness for you? Not even just for you, because obviously a lot of your content is physical fitness. You always have videos of you, like, going on your hiking trips or, like, long walks, I should say.
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu.
So, like, a huge part.
As a family, though, how would you say how important that is for not only just you, but obviously your kids and your husband to be super physically active as well?
So my content didn't start out that way. I didn't really ever focus on the physical fitness, the wellness, and that piece of it. So this is a fairly new addition to my content. And I think because... One, I started my daughter in jiu-jitsu because I really wanted her to get started on an art form that she could use for self-defense. That was like the main thing. And then I got introduced to it. Funny story, really quick side note. The only reason I train is because the kids coach was hearing me be one of those sideline moms. You know, the ones that are on the sideline. They're like, get up, move, get up. Don't let him do that to you. Strike back. And he came over to me and he's like, listen, this shit that they're doing is hard. So either shut the fuck up or get on the mats. And I was like, bet. Yeah. And so I got on the mats and I started training and I've been hooked ever since. So shout out to the kids coach who called me out for being a sideline mom. But being able to be fit is such a big thing that I didn't realize until recently in preparedness, because your body really is your number one survival tool. And if you can't move debris, if you can't regulate your own physical like wellness and your emotional state, and have that discipline and that self-control, and also be able to like walk long distances, maybe carry your kids for long durations because they're tired of walking. If you can't do that, then your survival is extremely compromised. So, because I feel like we see it a lot where people think like, I've got a garden, I've got food and water, I've got ammo, I'm good. I'm gonna live to be 150. And it's like, if you have a natural disaster like that and you suddenly have to flee or get the hell out of there very quickly, and under stress as well, you need to be able to count on your body to get you through that. And I don't think a lot of people understand that until it's too late. Like the average bug out bag, we were just talking about bug out bags, right? The average bug out bag is about 20 to 30 pounds. When's the last time all of us have like put on 20, 30 pounds like in a backpack and just walked around for a whole day, assuming like if we needed to get to safety and it was a distance? That's a strain on people that they can't really account for. Yeah. Needless, like, doesn't even include if you have young children that you have to carry because they aren't going to walk distances to safety or climb, right? So this is fairly new for me to take on and share my content, because I realized recently that I talk a lot about preparedness, but my physical capability to defend myself, to be able to evacuate and depend on my body, wasn't where I wanted it to be. So I wanted to make a change.
Okay, a question I have, because as far as like for a callback for the bug out bag, do you, and this is a two-parter, do you keep your bug out bag like at home? Okay, so
asterisk to that, I keep it where I am. So if I'm at home, it's at home with us, and it's at the ready. It's a centralized location. We know all of our supplies stay there. If we go on long trips, it comes with me.
Got you.
So when I travel anywhere outside of my normal day-to-day, because I do have a car kit, and it has a lot of very similar items, but things that are different that are made for like my actual car kit. So if I have to travel like a long distance or go across states, my bug out bag actually comes with me. I fly with my bug out bag. So when I go on work trips, I pay extra for baggage sometimes to take that thing with me. Yeah. It goes where I go.
But I mean, you know, it's rather, I feel like in that sense, I'd rather pay the little bit extra to have this security and safety in mind. Okay, so the other thing is, my question is, and the reason why I'd ask that is where the bug out bag would be is, let's say you're just having something as simple as like a family dinner. You know what I mean? The family were out eating pizza at a spot. And then let's say a natural disaster happens. We're in California. Let's say an earthquake hits, right? Car's damaged. Everything in there's messed up. It's just you, you're in your family. What is your next step?
Depends how bad the damage is. And
what you can salvage?
Not so much what we can salvage, but like, for example, if we are taking our vehicles, we always have a car kit that has a lot of the same things in there. Yeah. So if we need to attend to anybody that's injured, making sure I have prepped medical supplies. If we're stranded, knowing I have like emergency food ration bars or extra food and water in the car. And communication is huge too. Like if in a disaster like that, always making sure that you have the opportunity to communicate out if you can, whether that's a wind up, hand crank radio to know like what are some of the updates, emergency updates that are being broadcasted on emergencies, on emergency channels, or even having, like in my truck, we installed comms, so I can have be able to pick up different radio transmissions from my truck. And these are all things that you can continue to add and layers to your preparedness. But if we're out and about, we still have our car kit. And so knowing what is our best way to get to safety. So knowing where we are and having a plan to get in and out, like roadways, and knowing where the blocks are. Okay. Anytime we find that we're going somewhere unfamiliar, that's part of the exercise, is knowing, okay, where are we going to be for the majority of the day? How did we get here? Like what roadways did we take to get here? And what are some of the open roadways we know, like, to get out? Oh, yeah. And it's going to vary, but that is part of the discussion. Anytime we go somewhere new, that's kind of a ways away, is what is our best route back home for safety, or another rally point for safety.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. Because I feel like that's another thing would be practical is, something catastrophic to happen while you're doing something as simple as out having a family dinner.
And I'll tell you, most of the time, it's not the big catastrophes that people find themselves having to lean on preparedness. It's everything from like, shit, we have a flat tire and I'm stuck for 4 hours and my kids are hungry. Thankfully, I have extra, like I have protein bars or something and beef jerky in the car, or my kids are thirsty. Or we are at a soccer game, a family soccer game, or a family like sporting event. Somebody cuts their finger on a beer bottle, right?
One of the kids?
No, not the kids. Hopefully not the kids. No, like if you're at a sporting event or something, tailgating, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And somebody gets a cut or is injured, you have basic medical supplies to be able to provide aid in that moment.
Yeah.
They're not just like taking some dirty napkin and putting it on their finger. You actually have what you need to try to provide aid in that moment. Most of the instances where people are finding, oh shit, I'm really glad I had XYZ or I knew what to do in terms of skill, are the everyday like inconveniences or mishaps. Not so much the big stuff like tornadoes or flooding or riots and things like that. Although those happen, but it's more likely you're going to encounter something on smaller in scale that is very practical that we would all say like, oh shoot, I'm really glad I had what I needed.
What would you say is one skill that you must have to be a prepper?
That's a good one. One skill? Oh, there's so many. I think one that is very popular right now for a lot of people is knowing how to grow and preserve, or just preserve your own food. Right?
Yeah.
So
like
a lot
jarring
of
shit or
canning.
Sorry.
Yeah. Close. That's one method, right? But there's like dehydrating, there's freeze drying, there's canning. Even the simple one of like just freezing your food. Like that's why a lot of people go to Costco or these wholesale food places. They'll buy in bulk. They'll separate them out. They have the vacuum sealers and such, and they'll label it, and then they'll freeze it. Even something like that, knowing and having the skill set to know, okay, this is a way for me to extend the shelf life of my food so that I can, my family and I can consume this at a later date is huge, because so many people nowadays live on what? DoorDash.
Yeah.
Fast food. What happens when all of that shuts down? Let's say we have like a major event where none of that is accessible anymore. Like a lot of people who did that were during COVID times when things were shut down. Didn't know what to do. They had to like learn how to cook all of a sudden, learn how to preserve their own food.
That's where the whole sourdough bread fucking...
Do you know how many banana bread and sourdough breads I've made during that time too?
Hell yeah.
But it's very real. A lot of people can make such a difference in, one, their nutrition, like the nutrition they take in, because they're paying more attention to the foods that they're consuming and preserving. But knowing how to build a food storage by preserving food for longer. That's a huge skill that a lot of people, it doesn't take a lot of effort. It's just a matter of knowing what's going to work best for you. Yeah. So whether it's canning or being able to put food in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, that alone can extend the shelf life of foods that we consume every day.
You talking about those little square packets that come with like beef jerky?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those. So if you can remove the oxygen, so the elements that impact food spoilage, temperature, oxygen absorber, oxygen levels, moisture, and then sunlight. So if you can reduce one or all of those elements, and that's why they put them in those looks like space bags, the silver bags with the oxygen absorbers, and seal it up, you're removing the oxygen, so that's going to help preserve it for longer.
Okay.
I know it sounds like a lot, but I promise you it's very simple and straightforward.
No, it
makes sense.
What's crazy too is something that I had a conversation with someone at work was even like with storing water, they were saying something about if you store water like at least 4 to 5 feet underground, the temperature doesn't change no matter what the surface area is. So it can be super cold or it can be super hot outside, but the temperature of inside the soil will stay the same, and that's how they preserve water. I've heard, or at least that's what somebody had told me before, that's something that they're planning to do as a part of their preparedness. Because I have, like, ever since you started with this, I've definitely talked to people about it, and then come to find out there are people who are like actively doing this too.
There are preppers. Preppers look so different nowadays.
Yeah.
Used to be like quite the stereotype, right? But we're everywhere.
Yeah.
Preppers are definitely the idea of preparedness and wanting to just own your preparedness a bit more. Yeah. A lot of people are invested in that. So to your point about the water, yeah, if it's feet underwater, the temperature variance is going to be minimal compared to at the surface. But water is something, everybody needs water to survive. And that's like the number one element that I think people need to make sure they're prepping first is a water source or water purification, just water. But a lot of people store water underground, not so much because of the temperature variance, but because it's removed from being accessible at the surface level. And it's just protected, right? It's underground, it's hard to get to, but you can access it. So a lot of water tanks and water options are buried underground.
Yeah.
So in those situations, when you obviously have to get out of town and you have to, be ready to go, would you say there's like a role for every member in your household, like in terms of this person has to grab this or this person has to be in charge of that part of the role? And what would you say, like the roles in your family and who has what kind of role in those situations?
It's gonna vary, right? And so I think as a family, you need to determine, and this is gonna be for everybody, you need to determine who's gonna essentially grab what, who's gonna be responsible for getting shit in the car, because you gotta be quick. Who's responsible for getting the family, right? And who's responsible for the actual like evacuation driving, and who's gonna provide navigation and communications. Every family member is going to have to fall into a role of who's responsible for what, because you can't waste time in relying on one person to do it all. You have to make sure that you have as many bases covered. So it's kind of like a divide and conquer. Yeah. But this is where it's going to vary a little bit too, because if you have like multiple children, depending on their ages, it's going to be harder to gather them, right? And it's going to be harder to make sure that everybody's buckled in and safe and ready to go and that you have everything. And this is why if you have the opportunity to do drills, even if it's, sometimes is better than none. So if you have the opportunity to say, like, if we had to suddenly go right now, like, how long would it actually take us to get into the car and go? Yeah. Is it 10 minutes? Can we bring it down to 8 minutes next time? Yeah. And it becomes familiar. But establishing roles in an evacuation setting is going to help you divide and conquer a lot of what needs to be done and get you to be more efficient with how you're moving.
Yeah. So in the prepper community, right? Obviously someone you're not related to or anything like that, just someone that's in the community in general. Who would you say in that community is someone you've grown really close with and you have a bond with that's kind of like helped you grow, and vice versa, you helped them grow as well?
I feel very fortunate to have a good group of people, a network that I've built just kind of being on this journey. One, whenever you're sharing content on social media, I feel like you meet a lot of people that way through the digital world that you can exchange information in real time. That is extremely helpful, even if you've never met these people. So there's that. But I think in real life, what's made an impact for me are the folks that I train with in jiu-jitsu, because we have a lot. I think it's just, you'll find this in every like jiu-jitsu gym. You'll have a lot of first responders. You'll have a lot of police officers, firefighters, paramedics, because they probably have to use some of that in their everyday life a bit more. So I've been very fortunate to have a good group of people that I've met that are actually very preparedness focused themselves. And so their backgrounds are a little bit different, right? So like one is a firefighter. So I learn a lot of my fire safety from that person, that individual. Another person is a paramedic. So things that I'm like, if I was like had an injury in the field, what would be my best way to treat that and then get to seek medical attention? What would I need to do? So learning some of that advice from them. But honestly, the people that you encounter, whether it's online or in real life, it comes down to you asking some of those questions and actually sharing what you've learned yourself. So sometimes I can provide knowledge about building out a garden in the backyard because I did it. So it's an exchange of information that's been extremely helpful. But I again, you might have to seek out some individuals in your community and have open conversations about preparedness to really find who you can glean this information from. I just was very fortunate that the gym that I train at has a lot of people that come with a really great background where I can kind of pick their brain and apply that to preparedness.
Yeah. I feel that too, because like I feel like you advocate a lot for like you are your own first responder, and I feel like that's actually like really realistic.
Well, how many people the first thing you see whenever shit's happening, they're getting their phones out and recording
rather than helping. Yeah, absolutely.
You think that you're going to have somebody who's going to help you and be a good Samaritan, but the reality is people are scared to get involved themselves.
Yeah.
It's shitty, but that's reality.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, definitely, because I mean, you hear it all the time too. Like, if there's a shooting involved, it takes the police, like, depending on the area that they're going into, it takes, responders a little bit to get to you. And so those minutes, those seconds go by, those are super detrimental to your survival if you aren't prepared for what you're doing.
Do you know how long it takes to bleed out?
I'm gonna give a wild guess, like 20 seconds.
A little bit more. But okay. Depending on...
Like a minute
or two? It's going to vary a little bit, but like under 2 minutes.
Oh, damn.
In some cases, if it's a bad enough injury.
Like if they hit an artery? If you're hit in an artery?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's precious time. Minutes, seconds. And so you're right. The average... Like, first responders can take maybe an average... Depending where you live, an average of like 6 to 9 minutes to relay the call, to identify who's close by, to then send help. If you have the knowledge and you can assist somebody in need in those first few seconds and be a first responder to yourself or to them, that could save a life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that it comes to mind like a shooting or a stabbing, but an accident. Like, people have this all the time too, where they're like working on cars and something slips when they get a cut and it's bad enough, or they're doing machinery cutting down trees and there's an accident.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So if you have the skills and the knowledge and the know-how and hopefully the right gear as well, you can respond and you can be the difference. Because you're right, you are your own first responder. But hopefully if you're ever called to respond to somebody in need, you have the know-how and the confidence to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're at the point where it is going to be towards the end a little bit. I would ask you, and then I'll let you have the floor to like promote anything you got going on for yourself. What top 3 pieces of advice would you give to someone who's watching this? And it can be in anything. It doesn't have to be just prepper related. It could just be the 3 best pieces of advice you would give to someone.
One is that to remember that preparedness is a personal responsibility. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'll just go to my dad's house because my dad would know what to do. Or I'm sure there's a community food bank or community center that will take care of us because, or the government, the big one I hear is the government has a plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remember that no one's coming to save you. And as glim as that sounds, it's the reality. Because even if there was like a government plan or anything like that, the scalability of that being able to take care of everybody in need is just not feasible.
Yeah.
So you are your own first responder and it's a personal responsibility. Take care of your body and your wellness, because if the more you can do that and to prime your body to be able to respond in those emergency moments, not even just physically, but also mentally, to know that I know what to do, I have a plan, I can remain calm and collected in this moment, and I can take action rather than freaking out. That's going to be a huge opportunity for somebody to increase their survival rate. And then I think the last one is just when it comes to food, prioritize food and water if you have no other starting point and you're looking to pad your preparedness, especially if you live in a suburban environment. We all need to eat and drink every day to survive. So if you want to find a way to start, that's a very popular place to get started, is to build out a good food and water storage and just know what your family consumes on a day-to-day basis. Don't buy stuff that no one's going to eat because it sounds like it's a good idea. Buy more of what you know and preserve more of what you know you're going to consume, and then build a plan around that.
Yeah. Joe, for you, I think you'd probably like stuff Oreo whites in your...
for you, I think it would be just rice and gay men. I think that's something you would really stick with. With a heavy emphasis on bananas.
You got one of those,
with a heavy emphasis on bananas. I don't know what you use those bananas for.
Bananas or plantains, I thought,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, just for him to, put it in places that, it doesn't belong is what I was getting at.
You're disgusting. You're the first person I've ever seen to put chocolate milk in, like, a first aid kit.
You're the only person I've known to not be straight. And I've known you a long time.
You're disgusting.
So, if there's any events you have going on, or if there's anything you personally are doing for your YouTube channel, for your Instagram, for anything that you're promoting, you have the floor to do that however long you want.
Oh, thank you. I would love to hear from all of you who are watching if there are topics of discussion you'd like me to try to cover or share more information, or just also investigate myself and share what I learned. let me know whether it's on Instagram, MuthaPrepper, or my YouTube channel, also MuthaPrepper. But I want to also thank Waza in Elk Grove for a lot of the jiu-jitsu training that I've been able to meet for both my child and myself. We both train there, which is fantastic. Waza Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then my coach, Coach Martin at Ames Firearm Training, big one. So if you have the opportunity to train and challenge yourself in any way, whether when it comes to self-defense, do it, because you're just going to be more prepared for it. So yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. I'd be really excited.
How about that blog? Where can people get a hold of that blog?
It's on my website, and I need to update it. That's why I didn't say it. I was like, oh shoot, I need to update so much of it. But all the topics that I hope to share out, I will start to put more of it there. Most of it has been like video format, whether it's like Instagram or YouTube. So I need to do better with my blog.
So I don't mean to put you on the spot with
Damn
that.
It.
But I know you have it. It's there.
It is, but it's a written format that you can read. If words are more of your friend.
I know it's hard for him, but it's
sound
it's
out the words.
Yeah. He likes pop-up picture books. That's his thing.
Wow, I don't have that platform yet, but we'll make them.
As soon as they come,
it makes reading fun.
You're gonna do really good.
It makes reading fun.
Nothing more than 3-syllable words.
Oh
he really starts to struggle at that point.
I just know the eye bags he has just really get in the way of him doing anything productive with seeing.
Right.
Yeah, just like right now, look how heavy it is on him.
It's disgusting.
You don't even tell if his eyes are open.
Oh my god.
And I'm not pointing out the fact that they're slanted either.
That's the Sanchez.
Wow.
The eyes are low.
Maybe because it's the weight holding him down. I don't know. Who knows?
Disgusting.
But let's clap it up for her real quick.
Thank
you so much for your time, for rescheduling with us, especially.
No, it's fine.
Yes,
I'm happy to come back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We could definitely make that happen. Shout out to Mateo, the homie in the back with the camera work. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah. This was episode 20. It's officially done.
20.2.
20.2. Yeah. That's perfect. Kuya's gonna have this uploaded on YouTube shortly after we finish recording. Thank you guys again. It is Friday night. What is today's date? The 4th.
The 4th.
Yeah.
So thank
May
you.
the 4th be with you.
No, it's not May.
That's
it's
next. It's April 4th. April 4th.
Shit.
Yeah, that's next month. They're close
be with you.
Yeah. So then for episode 21, that'll be next Saturday, the 12th.
So tomorrow?
No, the 12th. No. Next Saturday. Next Saturday.
Yeah.
That'll be with Miss Vame and Yvette possibly, but for surely Miss Vame, who works and does events here at City Sound, women-powered events especially. So we're gonna be very excited to have that going on. But yeah, man, this was ISO Podcast episode 20, aka Ignorant Shit Only Podcast. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and see you guys next time.
Absolutely, thank you.
Peace.